Hi, Miss Holly.
How are you, Miss Milton?
I am well. How you doing?
Doing great. Good to see
Uh,
you.
Same here. We're going first with Miss Sneed.
Huh?
We're gonna go first with Miss Sneed.
Okay, no problem.
So I'm gonna leave the microphone on so that when Judge Love comes on, she can proceed with her because Miss Marie McLeod is her attorney
Okay, no problem.
and she's ready.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Lal, and we're going to begin with our expedited accusation calendar. This is a list of misdemeanor cases in which individuals were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. Soon thereafter, the cases were formally accused. When I call your case, I will let you know what is your new accusation number, what are the charges brought against you, to appoint counsel when necessary, and to set a bond if one's not been previously set. Please remember that you have a constitutional right to remain silent during these proceedings. This is a recorded and live streamed court, so please exercise your right to remain silent. Anything you say during the course of these proceedings, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. Wimberly Madison, could you please mute your screen and stop your video until your case, the case that you're interested in is called? Miss McLeod, just FYI, the case with Clarissa Chasey, the one that we had this morning.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I had to reset it.
I understand, Your Honor. I was in that Superior Court hearing and could not speak to Officer Melton when she called.
Okay. Can you hear me, Ms. Bridgewater?
Yes.
Okay, good.
If I'm not mistaken, the person that's on the Fulton ADC, DC, is this the person you're needing to speak with, Ms. McLeod?
You mean my client from
Yes.
this morning?
No, this is
No,
Sneed.
I don't think
This
so.
is the new one. This is Miss Sneed.
This is my new client.
Okay.
Miss Sneed.
Okay. All right.
So as I was saying, when I call your case, I will let you know who is going to be appointed counsel. One of the issues I'm going to address is your bond. Some of you may qualify for what we call a signature bond to be issued either through the jail or through the Department of Pretrial Services. If you do qualify for such a bond, you would have to comply with certain conditions in order to maintain that bond. If you do not comply, if you don't show up to court or you don't report to pretrial as required, then your signature bond will be revoked and converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond. Some of you may qualify for a cash bond or a surety bond, and in those particular cases, you would have to pay for the bond either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. For those of you who qualify for the cash or surety bond, you will receive a court date, and that would be, Ms. Bridgewater?
March the 28th.
Moving on, March 28th.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, Ms. McLeod, who is your client?
Miss Sneed, Your Honor.
Miss Need. Okay.
Sneed, S-N-E-E-D.
Okay, Miss Need.
Position 19.
All right. And is she in courtroom too?
I think she's probably on the
ACDC.
screen at ACDC.
All right. Is that Miss Need in the ACDC? All right. This is Kiana Sneed, case number 24CR 001-201E. Ms. Sneed has been accused of battery, family violence, and cruelty in the third degree. This is from a March 12, 2024 incident in Fulton County, Georgia. Mr. Howard, any priors?
Second arrest, 2020 battery dismissed out of Miami. Jail was the recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomas, yes, sir?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Brief facts of the case is that law enforcement responded to a verbal dispute at the Manchester Ridge Apartments located at 311 Godsby Road, apartment 23G in College Park. Upon arrival, the officer made contact with the defendant, and the first victim is Demetrius Sneed, who lives together. They live together at the location. The officer observed finger injuries and bleeding to both parties. And from a physical altercation that occurred between the two of them. Both the defendant and the victim had different accounts of what actually happened. It appears that after speaking with an employee, the employee stated that the defendant chased the victim out of the house. The victim got into his car, and the defendant placed their child, the second victim, who I referred to as DNN, who was a 2-year-old, on the hood of the car before getting in onto the hood herself. The victim got out of the car and was trying to get away from the defendant, and she ran to the car and drove across the cement, at which point the vehicle got lodged into a dip in the ground. The defendant then pulled the victim out of the car here and began fighting with him as she was picking up the juvenile DN, who was left in the parking lot several feet away from the fight. There is video footage, I believe, of the matter. Your Honor, our office was not able to get in contact with the victim in this, the adult victim in this case. So if we could sound for Mr. Demetrius, Demetrius Sneed, Sneed, in accordance with Marcy's law, Your Honor, that'd be greatly appreciated. Recommendation from the state is a signature bond through the pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, no further contact with Demetrius Sneed, and a stay away from that Manchester Ridge apartment location, and the completion of a family violence intervention program. Nothing further to add from the state at this time.
Your Honor, it's Demetrius Nottage.
Yeah,
That
that's,
is the gentleman's name.
yeah, I just noticed that also. All right, Mr. Nottage, you have appeared on screen.
Yes.
Did you have something to add?
Yeah, some events that
I need to put you under oath. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I swear that it would be the truth and nothing but the truth.
How do you know the defendant, Kiana Sneed? You can put your hand down.
She's the mother of my child.
How many children do y'all have?
One.
The 2-year-old?
Yes.
So this just happened a couple of days ago.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And do you both live together?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What would you like to tell us?
Well, so I would like to tell y'all that some of the events that was mentioned was happened inside the statement was false. She really didn't do a lot of that. A lot of the things didn't really take place. So I mean, I don't even know why she really went to jail, because I wasn't really pressing charges or none of that in the case, or whatever the case may be. I never said that she did anything to me or none of the case like that. So I'm unaware of what all the other things was going on and what's happening, what she said was done to me, because it wasn't done to me. And I don't want to press her. I don't want her to be, you know, have to go through this. And she's okay. I'm okay with her coming around and being around. And, you know,
I'm reading this warrant and I'm seeing, just reading it, I'm looking at all the drama that went on. Kids being put on the hood of a car, driving off, a car ending up in a ditch, fighting outside, caught on ring camera. I mean, that's just a lot of drama out there, out in public.
Mm.
So I really don't know what you're trying to ask me, but my concern is how the both of you are going to get along from this point onwards. So let me hear from Ms. Sneed's attorney. Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 26 years old. She and Mr. Nottage have been in a relationship for more than 4 years. They actually moved to the state of Georgia a couple of years ago from Florida. And as has been stated, they do share this 2-year-old little girl, Your Honor. My client denies a lot of the allegations that are in the warrant. She says they were having an argument, a disagreement, and apparently somebody else, so the neighbor or somebody else, called the police. But she denies most of the drama that is stated in that warrant, Your Honor. My client has no criminal history, Your Honor, and she and Mr. Nottage are both on the lease of this apartment. So I would ask the court to condition her bond on no further violent contact with Mr. Nottage. I had the opportunity to speak with him prior to court, and that is also his desire, Your Honor, and they do have a 2-year-old child to raise.
Is
And
that
we
a
are open to
firearm
this.
at home, Mr. Nottage?
Sam, ma'am.
Do you own a firearm?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. The bond is going to be set at $3,500. It's going to be $3,000 on the family violence and $500 on the cruelty. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. Ms. Sneed, you will be reporting to pretrial services twice a month until further order of the court. From this point onwards, you are to have no further contact with Demetrius Nottage. And you are to, either Mr. Nottage can leave the apartment with his gun and his personal belongings and vacate the premises, or you will have to. You are allowed to go back to the location one time only to retrieve your child and your personal belongings. And then within 30 days, you have to update the court with an alternative address. When you return to get your child and your personal belongings, you must have a police officer with you to go with you to collect your items. I will allow a third-party transfer of the child. In other words, if Mr. Nottage wishes to see the child you share with him, there has to be a third party who picks up the child and then sends the child back to you. Mr. Nottage, you yourself cannot facilitate the pickup and transfer. You are not to possess any firearms, no weapons. You are not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol. And while you are out on a signature bond, you will enroll in a domestic violence program within 60 days of being released. This is a 6-month program. It's only a condition of a bond where domestic violence is concerned. When you and Mr. Nottage get involved in these issues and the police officers arrive and investigate, this becomes a domestic violence matter. The decision to press charges is not left with Mr. Nottage. The decision to press charges is up to the prosecutor. So I'm just reading the warrant. I'm very concerned about the two of you being together, and I'm highly concerned about the fact that there was a firearm in the home as well during this alleged time, at the same time having a 2-year-old under the same roof. So please understand that if you return and live with Mr. Nottage, or you engage in communication with him and the police discover it, or they get involved with both of you in the future, you could be arrested again and end up in jail with no bond. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. That concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
Yes, thank you, Ms. McLeod.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Nottage, please understand that she cannot live with you. So you make the decision as to how, if you vacate the premises, she can return to the location. But if you're still there, then she has to find an alternative home. Thank you. You're free to go. Courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Position number 1, Denzel Bentley.
Mr. Denzel Bentley is accused of simple battery family violence. The accusation is 24 CR 1189Y. This is from an October 9th, 2023 incident. Mr. Bentley, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any prior?
This is 10th arrest. A 2021 ag assault. He was on probation for that until 2032. I got a 2021 battery DV, simple battery DV conviction, 09 ag assault conviction, and I think he got a current probation hold. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Got a brief facts of the case that on October 9, 2023, the officer responded to what appears to be, I think it's 1935 Allison Court Southwest North, N-26 unit, Atlanta, Georgia, and Fulton County, Georgia, for a domestic dispute. The victim advised that she was assaulted by her son's father, who was a defendant. She advised that he was upset about her going out, so he physically grabbed her by the neck and began to choke her, and also struck her in the head. She had to barricade herself inside the bedroom out of fear that he would, I guess, attack her further, and she waited for the police to arrive. The couple themselves share a 3-year-old son together. If I could just synthesize his history, Your Honor, all of these that I'm about to mention are convictions out of 2023. So he has a battery family violence that was reduced to a battery out of Fulton. He has a aggravated assault family violence where he received that 10 years to serve 1 year and 4 months with the balance probated. On one of those null process in that case, which was a battery family violence null process, it was the same victim as this case. And lastly, Your Honor, he has a 2023 aggravated assault family violence conviction with the same victim in this case. That victim's name is Ankara, Ankara, Joseph, Joseph. Unfortunately, our office was not able to get in contact with her, so if we could sound for her in accordance with Marcy's law, that'd be greatly appreciated. Your Honor, we do recognize that there is a probation hold likely for one of these matters in the case, but the recommendation from the state is a $3,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, a no contact with the victim, a stay away from that incident location, and the completion of a family violence intervention program. Nothing further from the state if we can just sound for the victim in accordance with Marcy's law.
Could you sound that name out? I'm fear I'm going to butcher it.
It's last name Joseph Ankara. I take it as Ankara, Ankara, Joseph.
Miss Joseph? All right, Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, my client makes a general denial of the accusation of the alleged. However, we would leave the rest of it up to the discretion of the court.
Bond is set at $3,000, and this is a simple battery, correct, Mr. Pierre Thomas? Y'all have not, it was originally charged as a
It was
battery.
originally charged as a battery, but now it's a
Okay.
simple battery. It may be escalated further, but inside of the warrant there was no indicia of some sort of injury.
This is a $3,000 surety bond. No further contact with Miss, I think it's Ankara Joseph. And to stay away from 1935 Allison Court, Southwest Atlanta, unless the victim has vacated the premises. He's allowed a one-time visit with a police officer to verify that the victim has vacated the premises, then he may return to that apartment. Otherwise, he would have to stay away from that location. No further contact with Miss Joseph, which means staying 200 yards away from her and not communicating with her in any way, form, or manner. If he wishes to see the child that he shares with Miss Joseph, he would need to file a legitimation action and obtain a court order to establish visitation, custody, and child support. Next court date is going to be March 28th. And Mr. Cook, your client has a probation hold in 24 SC. I couldn't make out the entire case number. I think is 83080083032, but I may be mistaken.
Yes, we'll check on that.
No, thank you.
Yeah, 3,000.
Is the next one John Billups?
Yes. John Lee Billups, come on. Position number 2.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes,
I
Mr.
received an email that there were some other conflicts. I just received it after I logged on. So I want to know if the jail could call me so I could speak with them.
Okay, do you have Attorney McLeod's number, Officer Norris?
Do we have,
Or if you could put in the chat to courtroom 2, Ms.
Okay.
McLeod, that would be helpful.
yes, we have the number. We have.
Okay. All right, if you could just give her a call and advise her who are her clients in courtroom 2, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
John Lee Billups is case 24 CR 1183B, accused of criminal trespass and theft by taking from March 13th, 2024. Mr. Billups, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors?
40, 2021 trespass, theft by taking, criminal damage to property, that was dismissed. 2019 FTA, trespass conviction. I think he's homeless. He does, I saw an APD hold too on the GCIC.
Thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Your Honor, brief facts of the case is that the defendant took 16 pairs of computer headphones and an electronic sharpener from the property of Georgia State University, located at 38 Peachtree Center Avenue Northeast, Atlanta, Georgia, and Fulton County, Georgia, with the intent to deprive the owners of said property, and he took it for the purposes of selling it. The defendant also entered the Georgia State property after having multiple active criminal trespass warnings to commit said theft, and had been banned from all of Georgia State property, Georgia State University property, but yet continues to return. The recommendation from the state is a $1,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and a stay away from all of Georgia State University's property.
Mr. Cook, any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Bond is set at $500 on each count. The total is $1,000 surety. Reset date is March 26th. And to stay away from all Georgia State University property, including 38 Peachtree Street. Thank you.
No, sir. Next, we have position number 3, Mr. Daniel Bonet.
Daniel Bonet is accused of DUI, driving under the influence of alcohol less safe, and willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer from March 12, 2024. Mr. Bonet, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, including? Okay, go ahead.
8 total. Last arrest was 2015, disorderly conduct conviction. As far as DUI, he had a 02 that was reduced to fail to operate with due care conviction. That's it.
And Your Honor, as it relates to the driving history, he has 2022 speeding 64 and a 40 out of Indiana, and a 2021 speeding 84 out of in a 60 out of Indiana. He has several other infractions, but those are the most relevant. But the brief facts of the case is that officer was dispatched to an impaired driver at Statesbridge Road and Metlock Bridge Road in Johns Creek, Fulton County, Georgia. The officer stated that they observed the vehicle driving recklessly, swerving all over the road, and abruptly stopping in the middle of the intersection. The officer located the impaired driver in the parking lot of 5710 Statesbridge Road. The officer approached the vehicle and spoke with the defendant and asked him what was going on that night. The defendant stated that he had parked in the location for 5 minutes prior and that he was not sure what was going on. The officer could smell the odor of alcohol coming from his breath. He was slurring his speech. He had bloodshot eyes and also watery eyes. The officer asked him if he had anything to drink that night. He said he did not. However, during the interaction, he continued to swig or take chugs from a water bottle. The officer asked the defendant to step out of the vehicle. The defendant refused multiple times. The officer then explained to the defendant that he was required to step out of the vehicle as a lawful order. The defendant continued to refuse. The officer had to wait for another officer to arrive to assist him in removing the defendant from the vehicle and place them in custody. Your Honor, the recommendation from the state is a $1,500 surety bond. That's $1,000 on the DUI and $500 on the willful obstruction. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and to abide by any no driving restrictions currently placed on him. Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, my client has lived in the Atlanta area for about 30 years. He's gainfully employed as an account manager. He has a BA. Given the charge and given the history, we would be asking for a signature-only bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate.
Excuse me. On the, excuse me, something just. On the DUI charge, that's going to be a $2,500 surety bond. On the willful obstruction of an officer, that's going to be a $2,500 signature bond through the pretrial services. That's going to be a $5,000 split bond. Next court date is going to be March 28th. Once he pays the surety bond, in order to maintain the signature bond on the other count, he will be reporting to pretrial once a month. He will be subject to random screens for illegal drugs and alcohol. So while you are out on bond, Mr. Bonet, you're not to consume any illegal drugs and not to consume any alcohol. If you test positive for either or both, your signature bond portion will be revoked and you'll be back in jail. No driving unless you have a valid driver's license or a properly issued limited permit pursuant to an ALS hearing with the Department of Driver Services. And if you are driving, you have to do so with a proper DL or limited permit and adequate insurance and proper registration. Thank you. And next court date is March 20th.
The other part is.
Next, we have position number 4, Antavius Bowden.
She'll sign it.
Sarah.
Antavius Bowden is accused of willful obstruction of an officer from January 25th, 2024. Mr. Bowden, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
This is second arrest, 2023, 8 counts of entering auto, obstruction, criminal use of an article with alter ID, theft by receiving, use of a firearm by convicted felon. That's open in Douglas County. He had felony charges with us, kidnapping, possession of a sawed-off shotgun or rifle.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, you did. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Extremely brief fact of the case, Your Honor, is that the officer, the defendant observed the uniformed officer from the APD at the front door. He slammed the door shut. He locked the door, further, I guess, making it difficult for them to apprehend him and place him in custody. The state is aware of quite a substantial, I guess, bond that was placed on his open case. And so, and given the nature of these charges, the state's request is a signature bond to the jail, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and nothing further from the state at this time.
$1,000 signature bond through the jail. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. Thank you. Mr. Cook, would you like me to reset it still to March 28th? This release on the felony hold?
Yes, I think he has the bonds on the felony set up. He just needs to handle this signature only bond. I know he's 19. I talked to his mother who will co-sign that.
He doesn't need to co-sign the signature bond through the jail.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're
And
right.
he's 19, but so I am not going to reset it to March 28th then.
It's my understanding that the bonds on the felonies are all set up, so he just needs to sign out and he'll be out.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have position number 5. No, position number 6, Jaden Clark.
Okay. Is 5 available, Boykin?
His bond stay.
Okay, so he's going to be released.
What's in town?
Yes.
All right. Jaden Emmanuel Clark is accused of theft by shoplifting and willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. Mr. Clark, this incident allegedly occurred on March 13th, 2024. You have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Your accusation number is 24 CR 1191C. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
First adult arrest.
You know, I don't know if Madam McLeod is still talking to her client, but this is a co-defendant case. I don't know if we want to handle them together. I can state
I can handle this first until
Okay.
if she's ready.
Okay.
Go.
The facts of the case is that on March 13, 2024, the defendant entered the racetrack gas station located at 2645 Old Milton Parkway in Alpharetta in Fulton County, Georgia, with his co-defendant. They walked around the store selecting several items, everything from Coke Classic to Racetrack Purified Water to Amazon RX energy drink to a can of sour cream and onion Pringles to a bag of Skittles king size candy. The total of it is a whopping $13.77. They left the store past all points of sale without paying. They left out of a door that was locked. They opened that locked door and left the business. All of the incident was captured on the camera. Specifically for this defendant, when asked his name and date of birth, he refused to answer or provide any sort of identifying information. He became argumentative with the officer and failed to cooperate to identify himself. They eventually had to fingerprint him in order to find identification. Your Honor, he has only 2 arrests. The first arrest is a juvenile arrest. Given the nature of the matter, the recommendation from the state is a signature bond through the jail, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and a stay away from that incident location. Nothing further from the state at this time.
Considering his age, I'll need a co-signer, so I'll need to do this through pretrial. Any objection, Mr. Cook?
No, his co-signer would probably be his foster parent. I've been trying to reach him. That is Michael Cozy, C-O-S-E-Y.
With whom does he live?
That with his foster father, Mr. Cozy. At 30.
And his foster father has the same address as Mr. Clark?
Yes, 3349 Layton View Court, Alpharetta.
Okay. Mr. Howard, I'm going to need a government issue ID from the cosigner to make sure that his living address is the same as the defendant's.
Put it on the bond order.
All right, thank you.
And also, will you all put the spelling of the foster parent's name in the chat, please?
Sure, sure.
Spell the name, please.
It's first name Michael, traditional spelling. Last name is Cosey.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
and that's a foster father.
Yes, Your Honor.
And on the bond order, we need a government issue ID with a same residential address as defendant. On the theft by shoplifting, it's going to be 1,000. On the willful obstruction, that's going to be 1,500. The total bond is 2,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. Mr. Clark, welcome to the world of adult pretrial. You will be reporting to pretrial services once a month. And if you fail to report, your signature bond will be revoked and you'll be arrested again. And your signature bond will be converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond. In order for you to be released from the Fulton County Jail, your foster parent, Mr. Michael Cosey, must co-sign your bond. So in other words, he needs to come down with a government issue ID, like a driver's license or a state ID, in which it indicates that you and he share the same residential address. You're also to stay 200 yards away from the racetrack at Old Milton Parkway in Alpharetta, Georgia. You're not to return to that business, to the sidewalk, to the parking lot, and so forth. Otherwise, you'll be arrested again. If you get arrested again, or if you fail to report to pretrial or fail to report to court, your signature bond will be revoked. Please be mindful that you're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and you're not to be in possession of any firearms or weapons. This will be further notice for court. Thank you.
Next, we have position number 7, John Davis.
Mr. Davis's case is 24 CR 1195C, accused of criminal trespass from February 5th of this year. Mr. Davis, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
He's been in jail since February, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Last arrest was in January, trespass. I think that was pad because it didn't show up on the thing. 3 arrests from 2023 for trespass, 2022 FTA. I'll stop there.
All right.
Yeah, sure. Your Honor, it is a Riverside matter, but I'd like to point out for the court, it states that the defendant was arrested at that time last week and diverted to the PAD program to help, but he left the PAD program early and has continued the same type of behavior. The recommendation is obviously from the state, a signature bond signature bond through the jail on the basis of the Riverside issue, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and to stay away from that location.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to do exactly that. It's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. And if you could submit a proposed order converting the signature bond through the jail in the PAD case to a surety bond.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do we have a case number for the PAD case?
I can look it up, Your Honor.
I don't see the PAD case accusation number. All right, Mr. Cook, anything else?
Just want to make sure this is the same case as at least one PAD case he had, I believe, last week. So we're looking at 2,000 signature bond through the jail.
For this new case.
Okay. Yes.
So, and the previous case he had a signature bond to the jail, that's revoked, and that's going to be converted to a surety bond. So I'm going to reset, once I get the case number, I'm going to reset both cases to March 28th.
Thank you.
Next, we have position number 8, Joshua Driver.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Mr. John Davis's bond is $1,000 signature bond through the jail, then, and that was the only amount. Miss Bridgewater, I'm sorry, did I confuse you?
Okay, so it's not 2,000 anymore, it's 1,000?
Yeah, I'm so sorry, it's,
No problem. No problem.
for some reason I thought he had two counts, but it's one count. And then we're going to reset this case, signature bond through the jail, to March 28th with the other pad case as soon as we get the case number.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. Joshua Driver is 24 CR 001188F, accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property. 2 counts of simple battery family violence from March 12th, 2024. Mr. Driver, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Hoda Atay. Ms. Atay, did you get that other bond order you emailed about?
I sent it to you, Judge, so that you could sign it, so that.
Yeah, it's signed, it's been sent, everything.
Okay, well, I'll send it straight over to the jail now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so going back to Joshua Driver, he's, any prize, Mr. Howell?
I got 22 total. State if I'm wrong, let me know, please. 2019 probation, 2019 battery DV dismissed, 2015 ag assault conviction, 2015 battery DV dismissed.
Mr. Graham, do you concur?
Yes, Your Honor,
Okay.
I do concur.
Thank you, thank you.
And good
You made his day.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This incident took place March 12, 2024. Law enforcement was dispatched to 514 Hutchins Road Southeast, Atlanta. Upon arrival, they spoke with Latangelo, Latangalo Milner. She advised that the father of her 14-year-old daughter, who referred to as YD, came over to the house. He does not live there. He was not invited. Went to his daughter's room, started kicking the door until it broke. A verbal dispute ensued. Mr. Driver, the father of the child is Joshua Driver. He then left the daughter's room, went to the living room, and turned over the couch. Both Ms. Milner and the minor child were telling Mr. Driver to leave the house. He pushed each of them with both arms. No one was hurt. There were no marks of injuries or violence. Our office has spoken with Ms. Milner. She indicated she'll not be on Zoom today. She stated that she and Mr. Driver were together in the past for about 16 years. They do share one 14-year-old child. They do not reside together. She stated they do have a domestic violence history. She believes that Mr. Driver may have been drunk when he came to the house unannounced. She had not communicated with him prior to that arrival. She confirmed the events in the warrant. She stated she would like for Mr. Driver to pay for the damage to the daughter's bedroom door, would like no further contact, and to stay away from the residence. Your Honor, based on the history and the facts of the case, the state is recommending $1,500 surety bond. No further contact with Ms. Milner or the minor child at this point. Stay away from the incident location, 514 Hutchins Road Southeast. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and no firearms were out on bond. And if we may sound for Ms. Milner in accordance with Marcy's law, Your Honor.
Latangelo Milner, if you're present. Okay. Ms. Atay?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 34 years old. He has lived in Georgia all his life. He does deny the allegations. He states that he entered the 14-year-old daughter's room because he heard a male voice inside. And he denies, what does it say, turning a couch, whatever that means. He denies that allegation. The warrant states that no one was hurt, no one had marks of violence. And Your Honor, I understand there is some history, but the last violent conviction was in 2015, 9 years ago. So I would ask for a signature bond through pretrial services. I would object to no further contact with his child. I would ask for a third-party transfer, and a stay away from that incident location is fine. Nothing further.
All right. Is Miss Milner on the Zoom? Okay. On the criminal trespass causing damage to property, that's going to be 1,000. And the 2 counts of simple battery are going to be 1,000 each. His total bond is going to be 3,000. It is a surety bond. No further contact with Lentangelo Milner and the minor YD. He's to stay away from 514 Hutchins Road in Southeast Atlanta. He's not to return to that location at all. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. Thank you. Next court date is March 28th.
Next, we have position number 9, Vontori Everett.
Your Honor, this is Officer Milton. If we can, Miss McLeod has something to say.
Yes, Your Honor, I have my client from earlier today who wants to take the plea that the state had made an offer.
Okay, I can address that towards the end once I'm done with the C calendar.
Thank you. I think Officer Milton just doesn't have anybody else there, Your Honor. That's why she was asking.
I'll try to get to that, Officer Milton, but I have to address my C cases first. All right, thank you. Ms. Ate, who do we have?
Position 9, Vontori Everett.
Right. Mr. Vontori Everett is 24 CR 1184A. And this is a case in which he's been accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property, battery, family violence, and cruelty in the 3rd degree. This is from a March 12, 2024 incident. Mr. Everett, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Attain. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
7 total. He don't have any violence. He just got some driving about it.
Mr. Grant?
Thank you, Your Honor. This incident took place March 12, 2024. Law enforcement responded to a dispute call at 2837 Alexandria Drive in Atlanta. Marshae, Marshae Wilson, advised that she was involved in a physical altercation with the father of her child, that is Vontori Everett. Mr. Everett struck her several times, causing bruising to the legs, her arms, her neck, her hands, and a laceration on the crown of her head. The battery happened in the presence of a minor child they do share together. During the altercation, Mr. Everett took possession of 2 cell phones and broke them. Based on the facts, Your Honor, the state is requesting a $3,000 surety bond. No further contact with Marshae Wilson. Stay away from 2837 Alexandria Drive. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bonds. And if we may sound for Miss Wilson, just in case you may be on, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Marshae Wilson, if you're present, please unmute and start your video. All right, Ms. Ate?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 39 years old. He is the father of 4 minor children. He has lived in Georgia all his life. He works in maintenance with Southside's Finest, and he has been doing that since 2017. As you heard from pretrial, he has absolutely no violent history. And he does deny the allegations here. I couldn't tell much from the warrants, just stating one sentence. So he does deny those allegations and states that the complaining witness was the first aggressor, trashing his home. And Your Honor, I object to the stay away because she doesn't live there. This is only his address. He lives there with his oldest son, and nobody else lives there. So I would object to the stay away. He's fine with no further contact. And since he has no violent history and only traffic offenses, I would ask for a signature bond through the jail. Along with that, no further contact is fine, and of course, object to the stay away. Nothing further.
All right. On the criminal trespass, that's going to be 1,500. On the cruelty is going to be 1,000. And on the battery family violence is 2,500. The total bond is 5,000. It's a signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. Mr. Everett, you can sign up for your bond, but you have to report to pretrial services twice a month. While you are out on a signature bond, you are to have no contact with Marche Wilson. And if you wish to visit the child that you share with Ms. Wilson, you would need to file a legitimation action and establish paternity and get a court order for visitation and custody, as well as child support. While you are also out on a signature bond, you will enroll in a domestic violence program within 30 days of being released. So make sure that by the time you visit pre-trial, probably on your second or third visit, you must show proof of enrollment in a DVIP program. You must provide us with a current mailing address, and also make sure that you do not consume any illegal drugs, alcohol, and not possess any firearms or weapons. Your next court date will be sent to your current mailing address as you provided, but it cannot be the one at 2387 Alexandria Drive.
Wait, Your Honor, are you ordering the stay away? Sorry, that's his address. She doesn't live there.
Oh, she doesn't live there? I thought it was the other way around.
No, she does not live there.
Okay. He can return to that location as long as she doesn't occupy the premises. The damage was just to the phones. It wasn't to the property then of another without. Okay, got it. Thank you. But he'll need to make sure that he stays away from her and have no contact with her or the child. And if he wants to have contact with the child, it will be through third party with a legitimation order. Next case, please.
Next, we have position number 10, Darrell Holloway.
Daryl Holloway is case 24 CR 1192A, accused of battery from December 12th, 2022. Mr. Holloway, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Atay. Any priors?
30, 2011 probation, 09 ag assault trespass conviction, 06 battery DV conviction. That's it.
Right. Mr. Grant?
Thank you, Your Honor. This incident took place on December 12th, 2022. Law enforcement responded to a dispute call at 1901 Myrtle Drive Southwest. Upon arrival, the officer met with Candy, it's Kandi Parker, who's the property manager at that location. She stated that Daryl Holloway appeared to be intoxicated and was screaming that he will kill everyone. When she approached him to see what was happening, he got on the elevator. She attempted to stop the elevator, and that is when Mr. Holloway swung his arm and hit her with an open hand on the left side of her face. He then swung his arm again and hit her a second time on the left side of the face. The officer did observe swelling to the left side of Ms. Parker's face, and she did state that at the time Mr. Holloway was living in apartment 102. The officer was not able to make contact with him at that during that occurrence. And Your Honor, the state is requesting $2,000 surety bond. I'm not sure if Mr. Holloway still lives in that building, but we have not been able to reach Ms. Parker. So we are going to ask for no further contact with Ms. Parker and a stay away from the incident location. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. And if we can sound for Ms. Parker at this time, Your Honor.
All right, Miss Candy with a K, Parker, are you present? All right, Miss Atay?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 64 years old. He has lived in Georgia all his life. He firmly denies the allegations. He has been homeless since that incident. he was evicted or he was removed from the apartment. So he is residentially challenged and has been so since that incident in December of 2022. Your Honor, again, my client does deny the allegations. He's disabled. He walks with a cane and is very slow moving. And I understand there is some history, but the latest thing was a 2011 probation violation. The last conviction was in 2009, 15 years ago, Your Honor. So I would ask, he can't afford a bond at all. I would ask for a signature bond through, it can be through the jail or pretrial services. He has been trying to find housing. He does have a good mailing address at the Emmanuel House.
Okay. $1,000 signature bond through pretrial. If he has a good mailing address, then he'll be required to update pretrial services with his mailing address and make sure that he reports to pretrial once a month. To stay away from the entire complex at 1901 Myrtle Drive, have no contact with Candy Jackson, no illegal drugs and no alcohol and no weapons. This is a level 1. If he wants a signature bond, he'll need to report to pretrial. Otherwise, it'll be $1,000 surety bond. Which one would he prefer?
A signature bond.
All right. Just as long as he understands he needs to report once a month. If he doesn't report, a bond, the bond will be revoked.
Does he have a phone? He has a phone?
He does have a phone.
Okay.
All right.
Next, we have position number 11 and position number 2 on the add-on. Kenneth Lewis.
State, I'm gonna defer.
Okay, we have State versus Kenneth Lewis. Ms. Lewis, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Atay. You have 2 particular cases with us. The first one's position 11 on the main calendar, 24 CR 001193H, in which you are accused of theft by shoplifting from February 19, 2024. On the add-on calendar, he's got a second shoplifting matter, 24 CR 001197H. And this is from an incident February 28th, 2024. Any prior, I'm sorry, Mr. Graham was deferred to you. Do you have his GCIC?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, we have one previous arrest, 2015, for fleeing. That's the only thing that we have on our side. And these pair of incidents took place at the same location, which is the Walgreens at 4617 Jonesboro Road, Union City. In each of the incidents, Mr. Kenneth Lewis was seen sliding over the counter. On the first incident, he grabbed 24 packs of Newport cigarettes, 12 packs of L&M cigarettes, a value of $277. And on the second incident, same situation, sliding over the counter, he grabbed 5 packs of Newport cigarettes, valued at $44.95. Your Honor, this just based on the proximity and dates, the location, and the manner in which these items were taken, the state is requesting for each a $500 surety bond and a stay away from the Walgreens at 4617, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out of bond.
Ms. Atay?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 28 years old. He has lived in Georgia all his life. He does deny the allegations as stated in the warrant. This shoplifting incident allegedly occurred February 19th and February 28th.
Mm-hmm.
He was arrested March 12th. He did receive a signature bond. He had some other charges yesterday for also shoplifting, and I believe that, you know, it just, I don't know why, but he received a signature bond on his charges that he appeared for yesterday. And he has one prior arrest in 2015. I didn't hear what that was. So a driving offense. He has no theft in his history. He's 28 years old. I would ask for a signature bond through the jail. And stay away from Walgreens. Nothing further.
You said you received a signature bond yesterday. Was that at felony first appearance or
So I believe so, Your Honor.
would that be then felony first appearance?
I think so.
Okay, I just want to be sure because I didn't have him yesterday. So in addition to a felony theft by shoplifting open case, he now has 2 misdemeanor ones.
Yes,
Okay.
but he denies all of the allegations.
Oh, that's his constitutional right. On position 11 is $1,000 surety. On the add-on is $1,000 surety. Next court date is March 28th. Reset date, to stay away from the Walgreens at 4617 Jonesboro Road in Union City, Georgia. And we'll see him in court on March 28th. Thank you.
Next, we have position number 12, Malik Lynch.
Malik Edward Lynch.
Yeah, I believe that's a conflict. I guess.
All right. Miss McLeod, is this one of your clients?
Yes, Your Honor, but I haven't been able to speak with him yet. I'm still waiting on the jail to call me.
Oh, I see.
We cannot make outgoing calls, we only go receive calls.
I'm sorry?
We're only able to get calls, we cannot make calls out.
Can she try calling the courtroom at
They
2?
tried calling, but no one answered.
Then they may still be having issues with their phone. All right, Mr. Lynch, we'll address your case shortly. Please step aside. What about Ephraim Masharia?
Yes, we can go to position 13.
And what were the 2 cases that Miss McLeod has? Does she have 2 other conflict cases?
I believe so.
Okay. Ephraim Masharia?
It's on 2.
2? Okay, thank you. Is case number 24 CR 1198G, accused of battery, family violence from March 13th, 2024. Mr. Masharia, you have a right to remain silent as advised, and your attorney is Mr. Cook or Ms. Satay?
Miss Kim, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. She's on her way.
Just first
Kim.
arrest.
Okay, thank you. All right, your attorney is Ms. Kim. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Brief facts of the case, Your Honor, is that law enforcement was dispatched in response to the incident that occurred at 35 Bannister Drive, Roswell, Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia. The victim, Catherine, Catherine, Machara, Macharia, explained that her father, the defendant, had attacked her. The defendant got in her face and began screaming at her, at which point the victim began yelling back. The defendant grabbed her by the neck and chest, pushed her down on the couch, and he then jumped on top of her. And as she swung her arms trying to escape, at which point the defendant's sister and mother tried to separate the two. The defendant and the victim rolled from the couch onto the floor where the defendant held her down and restrained her by her wrist. The defendant then headbutted the victim in her face, and at some point during the altercation, he kicked the victim in her face. The victim fell backwards and began kicking in an attempt to escape again from the defendant's grasp. The defendant eventually released her and stood up and ran away. The victim's account of the events was confirmed by video incident captured by the victim's sister. Our office was fortunate enough to get in contact with the victim. She stated that She, along with the defendant, her mother, and 3 siblings all reside at the incident location. She states that the defendant has been abusive to her and her siblings their whole life. She states that she does fear the defendant and that she fears him now even more so that he's in jail. She's afraid of I guess retaliation once he gets out. The victim stated that she believes the defendant has MH issues, and that it is escalating. She confirmed the events in the warrant. She states that she had to go to the ER yesterday where she was given medication. She states that she's been having a hard time closing her mouth and eating due to her injuries. The victim's family attested to the verbal and physical altercation and abuse. The victim states that she wants no contact for the defendant to complete an anger management course, for him to submit to therapy, submit to MHET, and for him to stay away from the residence. The recommendation from the state, Your Honor, is a $3,000 surety bond, stay away from that 35 Bannister Drive in Roswell location, for him to have no further contact with the victim, for him to complete a family violence intervention program, and for him to have no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And if we could sign for the victim in accordance with Washington's law, that'd be greatly appreciated, Your Honor.
Ms. Catherine Masharia?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, if you'd like to address the court, you would need to unmute and start your video. Ms. Masharia, would you like to, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 21 years old, Your Honor.
Okay, do you have another device on in there? Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. It was my mother's. She was watching it on her phone.
Okay, you need to stop moving around. Did you want to say anything, or do you believe the prosecutor said everything that needed to be said?
The prosecutor has said everything that needed to be said, Your Honor.
All right, appreciate it. You may mute your screen and stop your video if you choose. Thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, we have no objection to stay away and no further contact, Your Honor. My client, Mr. Macharia, he is gainfully employed. He is actually a nurse, and he has been a nurse for about 9 years. And he has a very caring personality and caring job. He told me that he'd rather go to jail himself than her daughter. So he has I don't know if you can see it, but he has a bite mark on the forehead. It was bitten by her daughter, and there's a scratch on top of his head, and there's another bite mark on the hands, fingers. He also has to defend himself, and he wanted to make sure that stuffs are not broken and she was not getting hurt. Your Honor, we would like to request for a signature on bond. Since this pre-trial, since this is his first arrest ever.
Okay. Thank
Officer did confirm that the events were captured on video, by the way, Your Honor.
I do notice, and no, I'm not making a judgment call as to who's the initial aggressor, because clearly the officer has already sworn out the warrant and somebody's already made that decision. The next question is bond and how the case moves forward. All right. I am going to set a bond at $5,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Macharia?
Yes.
You can sign up for your bond, but from this point onwards, you will need to find somewhere else to live. You are to have no contact with Catherine Macharia as long as she lives at 35 Bannister Drive in Roswell. You cannot live at that location. You may return to that location one time only with a police officer to retrieve your personal belongings. Within 30 days from your release, you have to update the court with a new mailing address. You're to stay away from Miss Catherine Macharia. You're not to communicate with her through in person, through mail, email, phone, computers, third parties, and even on social media. If you engage in any form of communication with Miss Catherine Macharia, you could run the risk of being rearrested and losing your signature bond. You are to report to pretrial services once a month. And while you're out on a signature bond, within 30 days, you will show proof that you have enrolled in a domestic violence program. This will be in-person classes only, not online. So you're gonna have to make time to set aside one session a week to complete those classes. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. Thank you.
Next, we have position number 14, Jeremy Miller.
I have this individual called Y Dub. I want to make sure this person is an adult and not the minor referenced in a prior case. Y Dub, you need to unmute and start your video.
Does she have anybody?
Individual on Zoom.
Yes.
Please start your video and unmute yourself. All right. Which case are you here for?
Yes, I am here for Betrayal Wimberly.
Okay.
I'm his big brother.
Okay. Just want to be sure then. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Please mute and stop your video. Thank you. All right. This is Jeremy Miller. Would that be correct, Mr. Tate?
Yes.
That's Ms. Kim.
Oh,
Yes.
Ms. Kim, I'm sorry, Ms. Kim.
No problem.
And this is case number 24CR1196J. Mr. Jeremy Miller is accused of criminal trespass from February 25th, 2024. Mr. Miller, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
What's the incident date you say?
February 25th, 2024.
25 total. Last arrest was February 28th, trespass. February 26th, trespass. February 13th, trespass. 2023 ag assault obstruction. That's 5 counts of obstruction. Possession of a knife or firearm during the commission. Those were dismissed. 2023 FTA. 2022 ag assault dismissed.
Mr. Pierre Thomas? Yes, sir.
Your Honor, brief, straightforward facts is that the officer was patrolling North Springs MARTA station located at 7010 West Peachtree and on Dunwoody Road in Atlanta, Georgia. The officer saw the defendant sleeping on the train car. The officer attempted to wake the defendant, at which point the officer recognized the defendant as someone who had a permanent ban from all MARTA property. Your Honor, the state is of the imposition that something has to give. He's a multi-state offender. He has FTA out of 2022, 2023, and in the year of 2024 alone, he's picked up at least 4 arrests for criminal trespass, 3 specifically at MARTA and 1 in Fulton County as well. The recommendation from the state is a $500 surety bond, a stay away from all MARTA premises and property. And no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Nothing further to add from the state at this time.
All right. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. My client, Mr. Miller, is 37 years old, and he does have an email address and mailing address. However, he has been struggling very much with his medical health. It's very, very serious medical condition that he has. He does need to get some help, and he wants to get together with Pat later. Even though he was not reported for the Pat, he can still have a caseworker there to help him out to move forward. He has no employment as of now, and he does not have any money to bond out. So even $500 will be no bond for him. So I was wondering if he can get signature on bond through pretrial, even if it is level 2. He doesn't want to. The reason that he's continuously having challenges is because of his homelessness, and Pat can provide housing. Thank you.
I see a Ponce de Leon Avenue address. What is that?
It's Hope, Atlanta. He has a free mailing services there.
I see. Okay. Bond is going to be set at 500. It is a surety bond. Next court date is March 28th. To stay away from all MARTA property until his rights to use MARTA are reinstated by that company. Thank you.
Next, we have position number 17, Bakari Preston.
Did you say 17?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Dakari Preston is accused of theft by shoplifting from March 13th, 2024, case number 24 CR 1199G. Mr. Preston, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you will be.
Your Honor, that's Ms. McLeod. I'm not sure if she's on there because she just got off to talk to the two conference.
Ms. McLeod, are you ready to address Mr. Preston's case? All right, don't see her available. May I take another case?
Yeah, we can go to position number 18. Edwin.
What about Chestus Ray Nixon? 17, 15, and 16?
Hold on, Your Honor. You said
Ed-
position 15.
It's 15 and 16, yes. Chestus Ray Gomez Nixon. Oh, you can tell me later, no rush. Edwin Slater is position 18, accused of criminal trespass from March 13th, 2024. Mr. Slater, you have a right to remain silent as advised, and your attorney is Ms. Kim, Mr. Cook.
I'm sorry. Okay, just get it.
I'm coming, Your Honor.
All right. All right. Ms. Kim, your client has been advised of his rights and his charge. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
It's Slater, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you got 20 plus. January arrest for shoplifting, January 16th. January 11th, shoplifting. 2023 shoplifting, 2023 probation. A couple of shopliftings from 2022 FTA. I stopped there.
On a brief fact of the case is that law enforcement was dispatched to the target located at 3535 Peachtree Road, Northwest Atlanta, Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia. Upon arrival, the officer spoke with the loss prevention person who explained that the defendant, who was arrested for shoplifting from the store on January 11th of the same year, which is this year, was given a criminal trespass warning and had yet again returned to the property. Loss prevention was able to detain the defendant, who was held by the security in the office until police arrived. Your Honor, I think the history kind of speaks for itself and its propensity to participate in further crimes. And I guess for the protection of the victim in this case, or for the protection of the public, the recommendation from the state is a $1,000 surety bond, a stay away from all target premises and properties, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. Nothing further to add from the state at this time.
Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Slater is 39 years old, and he's gainfully employed at Labor Ready Services. He provides labor, and he is trying to find housing so that way he doesn't get caught for criminal trespass at such a place like Target. We would like to request for signature on bond through free trial, and so he can get help from social workers. Thank you.
Understood. Bond is set at $1,000. It's a surety bond. Stay away from all Target stores, including the one at 3535 Peachtree Road. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Next court date is March 28th.
Next, we have position number 20. Detrell Wimberly.
Wimberly?
Yeah.
Mr. Wimberly's case number is 24 CR 1202E, in which she's accused of theft by taking from February 13th, 2024. Mr. Wimberly, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
You seen this booking sheet?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomas, you may proceed.
Brief facts of the case, Your Honor, is that the defendant, law enforcement responded to a report by the victim, Gerard Walker, Jerodwalker, who explained that his red Honda Civic was broken into with a smashed window that was parked outside of 255 Cortlandt Street, Northeast Atlanta, Georgia. And in the process of that break-in, an Apple iPhone 12 was taken. The incident was captured on surveillance footage. The victim tracked the phone to 579 Joseph Lowry Boulevard, which is a Test Communications. He went there to retrieve his phone. The store owner immediately returned it to him. The store owner explained to the police that the male in his 20s brought the phone to the store for the phone to be unlocked and stated that he would come back to retrieve it to pick it up at a later date. A day later, the suspect returned to the store to pick up the phone, at which time the owner was able to capture an image of the suspect's face and provided it to police. A be on the lookout was issued for the suspect through Crime Stoppers and a media release, and ultimately the defendant was captured. I do believe we have not had an opportunity to get in contact with the victim, so if we can sound for him in accordance with Marcy's law, I think the history kind of speaks for itself. The recommendation from the state is a $500 surety bond, stay away from 255 Cortlandt Street Northeast, where the car was broken into, a no further contact with Mr. Walker, and a no drugs or alcohol or weapons while out on bond. Nothing further from the state.
Mr. Walker, are you here? All right. I see family members on behalf of Mr. Wimberly. Did they want to add anything? I would not recommend it, but if you want to say something, this will be the time to unmute and say something.
We would like to object to that. They were not involved in this particular case. I don't think
That's perfectly fine. Ms. Kim, do you have a response?
Yes, my client is 21 years old, and Your Honor, he's a proud father of a 5-year-old daughter and 1 month old, another daughter. He has 2 babies that he really wanted to take care of, and he denies the allegation. And Your Honor, he has a really, bigger whale to fry. So we would like to request for a signature on bond for this. He's going nowhere, Your Honor.
I know. $1,000 surety bond, no further contact with Gerard Walker, and to stay away from 255 Cortlandt Street. Next court date's March 28th.
Next, we have position number 1 on the add-on calendar. Christopher L.
This is the case has been position 1 on our add-on calendar, 24 CR 001190G. Mr. Christopher L., accused of battery and willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer from March 13th, 2024. Mr. L., you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Oda Atay. Any priors?
4th arrest. According to the booking, resident of Warner Robins. Last arrest was 2023 for fleeing officer hit and run. On probation in Clayton County. I got battery, false imprisonment. 2022 theft by taking, no load, failure to appear, and wanted out of Gwinnett for assault.
Thank you. Mr. Grant?
Thank you, Your Honor. This incident took place March 12th, 2024. Law enforcement met with Tatiana Cowan, C-O-W-A-N. She stated that she and Christopher L. had just come back from vacation in Miami. She became upset when he asked her to drop her to someone else's house. She refused to do so. At that point, he became upset. He slapped her in the face and bit her on the right arm. Officer did observe a bruise, red in color, on Miss Cowan's arm. And additionally, she was missing an eyelash and her shirt appeared to have been ripped.
And what's the basis for the obstruction?
The obstruction, Your Honor, as the officer approached, I guess it says a bike pathway. I'm guessing he was on foot. Flashed a spotlight down the pathway. Mr. L began to run into the woods that leads to 4601 Best Road.
Okay.
Our office has been in contact with Ms. Cowan.
It appears she's on Zoom, yes.
Okay, and we'll solve for her at the end of her presentation. She did confirm that she and the defendant are in a relationship for a year and a half now. They have no kids. They do not reside together. They do have a domestic violence history. The last incident, she says, was out of Gwinnett County. She's not afraid of Mr. L. She does want contact with him. She reported that she actually hit him first, and then that's how the fight ensued. And Your Honor, based on the record, the history and the facts of in the warrant and the victim statement, the state is requesting $2,500 surety bond. No further contact with Tatiana Cowan. Stay away from 2144 Sullivan Road in College Park. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right. Ms. Tatiana Cowan, if you would like to contribute to these proceedings, you may unmute and start your video. Otherwise, we are moving on to the defense. All right, Ms. Atay?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 22 years old. He has lived in Georgia all his life. He is a high school graduate and has worked for the last 3 months at FedEx.
At where? FedEx?
FedEx.
Okay.
He does deny the allegations, and as the complaining witness has stated, she was the first aggressor. My client was transported to Grady, which isn't reflected in the warrant, but he was transported to Grady before coming here. It had injuries to his genitalia. He has bruises and scratches, bite marks, his chest, his lip is busted. I understand that there is some history, but in this case, you know, especially with the complaining witness's statements that she was the first aggressor.
That is based on
what
she's saying, based on what Mr. Graham has just said. Would that be correct?
The state has stated that.
Yeah. Okay.
I would ask for a signature bond through pretrial services. He's fine with a stay away and no further contact. He would need a one-time law enforcement escort to retrieve some of his belongings that are there. Nothing further.
Last call for Tatiana Cowan. Right. Bond is set at $2,000. It is a surety bond. No further contact with Tatiana Cowan. To stay 200 yards away from 2144 Sullivan Road in College Park, Fulton County. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And in the event that Mr. L makes bond, he's only allowed to be released to the Gwinnett County hold.
Your Honor, will you break down that bond, please?
On the, oh, sorry, it's $1,000 in each count.
Okay, thank you.
Next court date is March 28th. All right. Are we ready to address Ms. McLeod's cases? Ms. McLeod, are you still there?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm here.
Okay.
We could go to position 12, Malik Lynch.
All right, Mr. Lynch has been advised of his rights and his charge of possession of dangerous drugs. His attorney is Ms. McLeod. Any priors on Mr. Lynch? Position number 12.
This is ninth arrest. Got an open DUI, hit and run, driving without a valid license. Possession of marijuana, obstruction. It's 23 CR 003063D. On probation, possession of a firearm by convicted felon or felony first offender. 22 SC 182561.
282561.
182561.
182561. Got it. Okay.
22 SC. Yeah.
Thank you.
Also on probation, possession
Oh,
of
that's good. That's good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Howard. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Brief facts of the case, Your Honor, is that the law enforcement was patrolling near a gas station located at 3015 Jonesboro Road, Southwest Atlanta, Georgia, and Fulton County, Georgia, when they observed the driver and passenger traveling in a black Honda Civic, neither of whom were wearing their seatbelt. The officer conducted a traffic stop and made identification of the driver, who could not provide his driver's license, so he was detained pending investigation. The officer made contact with the other occupant of the vehicle, the front seat passenger, who had a small amount of marijuana inside the vehicle, along with the other passenger in the vehicle sitting in the rear side seat. The defendant was taken out of the vehicle so that the officers could further investigate the matter. The defendant's rear left side pocket had a bottle of promethazine in it. The defendant was arrested. It was also found that he had a warrant for his arrest out of Fulton County Sheriff's Office for the DUI and dangerous drugs. Given the nature of the type of drug and given the nature of the charge, Your Honor, the recommendation from the state is a signature bond through the pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. Nothing further from the state.
Ms. McLeod?
Your Honor, we are not opposed to the bond that the state has recommended.
He's got an FTA. He doesn't qualify for a signature bond. It's an open DUI case. On the possession of dangerous drugs, it's $1,000 surety bond. Next court date is March 28th. And we're going to address both cases, this one and the DUI case, which is 23 CR 003063D. And both cases will be addressed on March 28th unless he bonds out on both of them.
What's that, a bond amount again?
$1,000 on possession of dangerous drugs, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. Thank you.
We could go to position 17. Dakari Preston.
All right. Ms. Preston, Ms. McLeod, this is your other client, Dakari Preston, 24 CR 1199G, accused of theft by shoplifting from March 13, 2024. He's been advised of his rights. And Mr. Preston, your attorney is Ms. McLeod. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
No.
Mr. Thomas?
This is the co-defendant case where he was, along with his co-defendant, perusing through the racetrack, and I guess ultimately made off with about $14 in food items and other in drink items. The recommendation from the state is a signature bond through the jail, a stay away from the racetrack, which is located at 2645 Old Milton Parkway in Alpharetta, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. I'm not sure if his age qualifies, so he may need to be a signature bond through the pretrial services, Your Honor.
He is 18 years old, Your Honor.
He's 18? Okay.
Yes. His mom is actually on the Zoom as well, though.
Oh, which one is she?
She is Miss Agostino.
The person who's the parent of Dakari Preston? All right, Miss Augustina? Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Augustina, will you be able to co-sign the bond?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so that's your legal name, Angel Augustina?
It's actually Angelette Augustina, ANGELETTE.
You got that, Mr. Howard?
Not really. I need her email address. Put it in the chat.
Could you put your email address in the chat?
Yes,
to
I can.
pretrial-howard.
And somebody's going to email you later with a link for the co-signer.
Okay.
All right. Ms. McLeod, I am doing a signature bond through pretrial services to stay away and no contact. Would any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is still in high school. He doesn't have transportation or anything like that. He tells me that he's at Alpharetta High School, but was supposed to start tomorrow at Independence Charter High School.
Well, I guess thankfully he has parents who are willing to co-sign and transport him. But I'm not certain how that transpires with his bond. You mean transportation to do pretrial?
Yes, Your Honor. That's what I was
Oh.
thinking.
Well, we can do a surety bond if he wants to bond on a surety bond. That way he won't have to report to pretrial. Would that help?
I think that's probably going to be up to his mom. He told me she doesn't have much money. That was we did have that discussion, Your Honor.
Right.
So I guess the signature bond.
Miss Augustina, if you would like your son to receive what we call a signature bond, where he doesn't have to pay for the bond at the present time, then he will be required to comply with certain conditions. As I've indicated earlier, the conditions are that he must report to pretrial once a month. He's required to stay away from the racetrack. I also want him to have no further contact with Jaden Clark. They have to stay away from each other. And you'll need to co-sign the bond.
Understood, Your Honor.
And would that be a problem for you
No,
to? Okay,
no.
all right. The bond is set at $1,000 as a signature bond through pretrial services.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Stay away from the racetrack at Old Milton Parkway in Alpharetta, Georgia. And Miss Augustina will have to co-sign the bond. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no firearms and weapons. And Mr. Preston is.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, Your Honor, I'm not familiar. Okay, I only stay up here in Georgia, but I'm not really familiar with Georgia, so I don't even know where I'm going to do
Well,
that at.
it's called Waze or Maps. And once you get all the information, you're going to be welcome to the world of criminal prosecution, which your son has brought you into. And you and your son will have to figure out how to report to pretrial. We'll
Oh,
have
not the pretrial. I'm just saying, where is it located? I don't.
We will send you all that information.
Oh, okay.
Please be very mindful that he needs to report to pretrial once a month. He cannot afford to get arrested. And when he needs to come downtown to report to court, he must appear in person. If he does not, the signature bond will be revoked and he will be arrested again, which won't look good on his school record.
Understood, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. Anything else, Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. There is the matter of Ms. McCrary's plea.
All right. Let me just go over the C calendar and then Deputy Milton, we are going to proceed with the plea hearing.
We have
the
15 and 16, they waived their appearance.
Oh, you have all right, position 16. Oh, Nixon, is that a waiver of appearance? Yeah, I was wondering about that. All right. So Justice Ray Gomez is position 15 and 16, 24 CR 11175C, accused of criminal trespass and battery. And the second case, 24 CR 001177C, accused of willful obstruction of an officer from March 12th, 2024. Ms. Nixon is represented by Public Defense Attorney Ms. Kim, and his appearance has been, no, excuse me, his appearance has been waived. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
43. On probation in Fulton. 2 counts of simple battery, 1 count trespass. You want the case number?
I've got it. Thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Your Honor, brief facts of the 2 cases is that in the first incident, Your Honor, which took place on March 9th, 2024, at Euclid's Avenue Yacht Club, located at 1136 Euclid Avenue, Northwest Atlanta, Georgia, here in Fulton County, Georgia. The defendant, who's a homeless person known to cause problems in the neighborhood, came to the bar / restaurant and was noted as acting strangely. He was asked to leave by the victim, Eric Broussard, Broussard, which he did not do immediately. Instead, he hit Mr. Broussard in the face with a closed fist, causing a small abrasion to his head. Warrants were taken out for the defendant. The defendant 3 days later, in the second incident, was located by law enforcement officers at 474 Moreland Avenue, Atlanta, Georgia, here in Fulton County, Georgia, where the officer attempted to initiate an arrest, at which point he fled on foot from the officer, ignoring the police's commands to stop, and he actively resisted arrest upon detention as well. Your Honor, the recommendation from the state as it relates to the first matter is $500. And if we could sound for Mr. Broussard in accordance with Marcy's law, that'd be greatly appreciated at the conclusion of the state's request. But the recommendation is a $500 surety bond on the trespass count and a $1,500 surety bond on the battery charge. And as it relates to the second case, Your Honor, a $500 surety bond on the willful obstruction charge, a stay away from the Euclid Avenue Yacht Club location at 1136 Euclid Avenue, a no further contact with Eric Broussard, the completion of an anger awareness course, and a no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. Nothing further to add from the state at this time.
Eric Broussard, if you'd like to contribute, unmute and start your video. All right, Ms. Kim.
Yes, Your Honor. My client, Mr. Nixon, is 38 years old, Your Honor, and he does seem to have a little bit of MH issue. So I asked our social worker to visit him in person to verify whether he needs confidence calendar or not. However, we have not gotten the result yet, so we would like to ask for minimum surety bond or signature on bond during pretrial if possible. He does not have anybody to bond him out. He is homeless, and yeah, that's it, Your Honor.
Okay. On the criminal trespass, position 15 is 500. The battery is 1,000. That's a 1,500 surety bond. No further contact with Eric Broussard, and to stay away from 136 Euclid Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. Position 16 is a $500 surety bond. Next court date's March 28th. And both cases, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and firearms.
And Your Honor, I'm sorry if I misstated, but it's 1136 Euclid Avenue.
I saw 136 on the warrant.
I have it as 1136 as well.
I'll go with that, and I'll change my glasses. Thank you. Okay, 136. Okay. All right. Position number 1, Bentley was
Your Honor, I sincerely apologize for interruption. And yet I really have to talk about this because I realized position number 20, Death Row Wimberly, my young client, his theft by taking case, the misdemeanor case, is a Riverside issue. The date of offense was February 13th, and then the warrant was issued on February 20. He has been in the jail from February 21 until now. It has been almost a month. So coming up this late, it's 100% Riverside issue.
I was wondering about that, but I couldn't pull up the warrant. So you're saying the warrant was issued on or about February of 2024?
Yes, February 2024.
All right. Mr. Graham or Mr. Pierre Thomas?
This is my case, Sean. I'm looking into it right now.
I don't have a problem bringing a signature bond through the jail. He's not going anywhere.
He's certainly.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And is that okay? Any comment, Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Based on his history and based on what his current open cases, he's certainly not going anywhere, or it's the state's position.
I'll do $1,000 signature bond through the jail.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for catching that, because I just couldn't pull up the warrant on that. Okay.
Thank you.
Let's move back on to position 1. Bentley was a $3,000 surety bond, reset March 28. Position 2, Billups is a $1,000 surety, March 28. Position 3, Bonet is a $5,000 split bond, March 28. 4, Bowden's $1,000 signature bond through the jail. 5, Boykin is released and further notice for trial. 6, Clark is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial. co-signer, level 1. 7 Davis is reset, $1,000 signature bond through the jail, but reset to March 28th because of his other open case. Joshua Driver is a $3,000 surety bond, reset March 28th. Bontori Everett is a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. Position 10 is $1,000 signature bond through pretrial. 11 Kenneth Lewis is a $1,000 surety, reset March 28th. He's also the add-on position number 2, $1,000 surety, reset March 28th. Position 12 Lynch is $1,000 surety, reset March 28th. 13 Masharia is a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1 DBIP. Jeremy Miller, position 14 is a $500 surety, reset March 28th. 15 is a $1,500 surety bond, and 16 is a $500 surety bond for Nixon, total $2,000, reset March 28th. 17 Preston's, I believe it was a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial with a co-signer for the notice. 18 is a $1,000 surety bond, reset March 28th. 19 Sneed is a $3,500 signature bond through pretrial with DBIP. 20 Wimberley is a $1,000 signature bond through the jail. And Christopher L is a $2,000 surety bond, reset March 28th. Right, do I need to make any changes? No, okay. For those of you who are concluded with the C calendar, you are free to go. In the meantime, Ms. Falk, Ms. McLeod, and Fulton ACDC, we are going to address, oh gosh.
Miss McCrary, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember which, was she on the add-on or the regular calendar?
She was on the 11 a.m. calendar this morning.
Okay. Yes, that was correct. Got it. Okay. This is State versus Kalisha McCrary, 24 CR 000332F. Ms. McCrary is present with her attorney, Ms. Maureen McLeod. Ms. McCrary, you have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything you choose to say, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. This matter was originally scheduled for 11 o'clock this morning from our state all-purpose calendar, but due to some conflicts, we are going to address it at this present time. May I place you under oath for purposes of the plea, Ms. McCrary? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Falk, what's the recommendation for the 2 counts, both are PI charges against Ms. McCrary?
Your Honor, as to count 1, the state's recommendation is 124 days to serve, credit for time served 62 days, which would be time served, released, time served. Count 2, we would merge with count 1.
Ms. McLeod, do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID for count 1?
I do, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. McCrary, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No.
Yes, no?
Medication.
Okay. Are you still able to understand what's going on in your case?
Yes, ma'am.
And is anyone forcing you to take a plea today?
No.
Are you satisfied with the legal services you've received?
Yes.
If you decide to plead guilty to count 1, you would have to give up your constitutional right to go back to court and have a trial in front of a judge or a jury. You will not be able to have the assistance of counsel to help you in a trial so that you can confront your accuser, challenge the evidence brought against you, present any defenses and arguments you may have, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
I don't know. I don't understand.
If you decide to plead guilty today, then you're giving up your right to have a trial in your case. In other words, there won't be anything else.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I accept it.
I'm just trying to explain to you that you can either plead guilty today or you can exercise your right to challenge the charges against you in a trial. Because in a trial, you do have certain rights, including the right to have the state try to
I'm
prove
guilty. I
charges
plead
against you.
guilty.
Okay, so you are willing to give up your rights to a trial?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you
Yes, Your
entering this plea willingly, knowingly, and voluntarily?
No. Yes. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm getting confused.
I don't want you to get confused, otherwise I'm going to have to reset the case.
Oh,
So
okay,
you
okay.
can talk to your attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you
I
understand that you are pleading guilty to a misdemeanor offense?
Yes, I understand, Your Honor.
And you understand that the conviction will go on your record?
Yes, I understand.
And that if you ever get arrested again the next time, that will be very difficult for you to get for a bond because this conviction can be held against you.
Yes, I understand, Your Honor.
So are you entering this guilty plea freely, willingly, and knowingly?
Yes, I am freely.
And you understand that you cannot appeal this decision to a higher court?
Yes, I understand.
How do you plead to count 1?
Guilty.
Your sentence is to serve 124 days, credit for time served 62 days. Your jail time and your sentence are concluded. And count 2 will merge into count 1. If you have no other cases holding you at the jail, you'll be released within 24 hours.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Milton.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Deputy Milton.
Thank you, Deputy.
Coordinating that.
You know you're being
Okay.
live streamed, Deputy. Okay.
Thank you, Attorney. Thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Okay, Ms. McLeod, would you get that paperwork sent to me, please?
Okay, I emailed it to Deputy Falk and
I'll
so
forward it
they
to
sign it.
Miss Bridgewater.
Yes.
That'll
Okay.
be fine.
All
Thank you,
right,
Ms.
everyone. Have a
Bridgewater.
good afternoon. That concludes.
I'm about to mess
Thank
up
you.
my
Bye-bye.
own face. See you.
Bye-bye.